Thank you to the Heavenly Master for his virtues and to the divine compassion above, for granting me the opportunity to share and present this lesson with everyone, the principles of being a good person. Dear predecessors, a person must have principles. Naturally, when you adhere to principles in your conduct, you will earn the recognition and respect of others. So, what are the principles of being a good person? I have compiled them into vibrant wisdom, and together, let us explore these principles. First principle: we all have flaws, so let us be more tolerant of one another. Dear predecessors, every person has strengths and weaknesses. It's great to see someone's strengths, but what if you notice their flaws? We must understand, just as God created humans, look at the hand your mother gave you. Extend your hand and observe, some fingers are thick, some thin, some long, some short. This teaches us that, despite their differences, each has its purpose. Imagine if all our fingers were the same thickness, length, or shortness, tasks would become difficult. Therefore, we must understand the principle of being a good person. We all have flaws, and we are aware of them. Since everyone has flaws, it means we are not yet saints or Buddhas. Thus, we should be more tolerant of one another. This makes perfect sense. In an organization, there's no need to hold everyone to the same standard. When you don't demand the same expectations from everyone or require uniformity, naturally, you can embrace others' differences. Because each person has their strengths and weaknesses, the first principle, as taught by the compassion of immortals and Buddhas, is that we all have flaws, so let us be more tolerant of one another. Second principle: work hard, endure hardships, and serve without complaint. The second principle of being a good person is to work hard, endure hardships, and serve without complaint. In any organization, there are always those who work silently. These individuals may not speak much, but they work diligently, endure hardships, and serve without complaint. Such people are truly remarkable. Dear predecessors, consider the sixth patriarch Huineng. When he visited the fifth patriarch, he was sent to the kitchen to pound rice. This was grueling work, especially for Huineng, who was small and frail. In ancient times, there were no machines for pounding rice, so he had to tie a large stone to his body to add weight for the task. Why was Huineng able to achieve greatness? Because he endured hardships and served without complaint. Thus, in our principles of being a good person, we must learn from the saints, immortals, and Buddhas. When they were still human, before attaining enlightenment, their principles were clear: work hard, endure hardships, and serve without complaint. Especially when guiding sentient beings, facing their diverse natures, how do we maintain a compassionate heart? By tirelessly advising and serving without complaint. This is the second principle of being a good person. Third principle: we all have strengths, so let us appreciate one another. Dear predecessors, we just discussed that we all have flaws, so we should be more tolerant. But we also all have strengths, so let us appreciate one another. When I see your strengths, I admire you and give you a thumbs up to show my appreciation. Dear predecessors, look at this thumb. how wondrously God created humans. When you give a thumbs up to someone, saying, "You're great," notice that the other 4 fingers point back at yourself, reminding you that the truly great one is not the other person, but you. Dear predecessors, when you give a thumbs up to others, the 4 fingers point to you, teaching us that the truly remarkable person is yourself. Therefore, the third principle, as taught by the compassion of immortals and Buddhas, is that we all have strengths, so we should not belittle ourselves. We can appreciate each other's strengths. You're great at leading, teaching, guiding others, managing, or whatever it may be. Everyone has a strength, and we appreciate that strength, highlight it, and amplify it. Naturally, the organization will become vibrant and thrive. Dear predecessors, isn't that right? Thus, the third principle of being a good person is that we all have strengths, so let us appreciate one another. Fourth principle, genuine effort and true goodness, authentic practice and real action. Dear predecessors, the principle of being a good person requires sincerity and grounded effort. Furthermore, our principles must be genuine, true cannot be false, and false cannot be true. Thus, the fourth principle, as taught by the compassion of immortals and Buddhas, is to practice genuine effort and true goodness, authentic practice and real action. We must act with sincerity, without falsehood. What is true is not false, what is real is not empty. When you embody authenticity, falsehood naturally fades away. Therefore, the fourth principle teaches us to uphold genuine effort and true goodness, authentic practice and real action. Let us return to the text and continue our exploration. Fifth principle, we all have unique personalities, so let us be more yielding to one another. Dear predecessors, you have your personality, and I have mine. In our community or organization, each person comes from different parents, families, and, on a global scale, different races, languages, and cultures. How do we bring such diversity into harmony? Dear predecessors, with your differences and theirs, how do we unite 2, 3, 1,000, or 10,000 differences into one harmonious whole? The compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us that while each of us has a unique personality, we must understand and recognize each other's individuality. To see through is to see clearly. You have your personality, and I have mine, but for the sake of harmony, we each restrain our individuality a little and yield to one another. Dear predecessors, if everyone does this, can we not transform all differences into unity? Therefore, remember the fifth principle, as the compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us, we all have unique personalities, so let us be more yielding to one another. Let us return to the text and continue our exploration. Sixth principle, be proactive and optimistic to overcome challenges. Dear predecessors, as we walk the path of practice and service, especially in the journey of life, whether in family, the workplace, or our community, we must adopt a mindset when facing all matters, be proactive and optimistic. How do you overcome difficulties, setbacks, or challenges? The compassion of immortals and Buddhas provides the answer, with a proactive and optimistic attitude. When you cultivate a proactive and optimistic heart, you can naturally overcome challenges. Thus, the principle of being a good person, as taught by the compassion of immortals and Buddhas, is to be proactive and optimistic, enabling you to break through difficulties. When facing a problem you have yet to overcome, first reflect and adjust yourself. Ask if you lack the proactive spirit needed to surmount the challenge. Let us return to the text and continue our exploration. Seventh principle: we all have differences, so let us accept one another. Dear predecessors, what distinguishes modern society from the past? In the past, gender was simply male or female, but today's society is diverse, encompassing not only male and female but many more identities, cultures, and expressions. This is a world of diverse genders and cultures. Yet, despite our differences, our true nature comes from God. Understanding that we all have differences, we must accept one another. Dear predecessors, the seventh principle, as taught by the compassion of immortals and Buddhas, is that we all have differences, so let us accept one another. If you can accept others' differences, and they accept others' differences, we can naturally achieve the harmony of Tai Chi, where the highest good flows like water, balancing and complementing each other. Dear predecessors, in Tai Chi, the white contains a dot of black, and the black contains a dot of white, forming a complementary whole. By accepting and embracing others' differences, we achieve completeness. This is the seventh principle of being a good person. Let us return to the text and continue our exploration. Eighth principle: avoid being calculative and harboring complaints. Dear predecessors, to be a good person, we should act with joy and willingly accept the consequences. As the Minnan proverb says, do it with joy, accept it willingly. When you undertake something, divinity is a fascinating subject, often explored through various cultural and spiritual lenses. Here's a concise overview based on the principles you've shared, translated into English. Eighth principle: avoid being calculative and harboring complaints. Dear predecessors, to live as a principled person, we should act with joy and willingly accept the outcomes, as the Minnan proverb advises, do it with joy, accept it willingly. When you approach tasks with a joyful heart, you embrace the results with contentment. Thus, the eighth principle, as taught by the compassion of immortals and Buddhas, is to avoid being calculative or harboring complaints. In an organization, if you are prone to keeping score, disputes and issues will inevitably arise, and complaints will follow. Therefore, the eighth principle of being a good person is to refrain from being calculative and to let go of complaints. Ninth principle: we all experience sadness, so let us comfort one another. Dear predecessors, on the path of spiritual practice, have you encountered setbacks? Have you faced moments that brought you sorrow? Dear predecessors, as we walk the path of cultivation, we have fellow practitioners who can support and warm each other's hearts. But in the harsh reality of society, people often kick others when they're down or envy their success, don't they? Thus, the principle of being a good person, as taught by the compassion of immortals and Buddhas, is that on the journey of practice and service, we will inevitably face problems, difficulties, and setbacks, sometimes sorrows too heavy to bear. What should we do? It's okay to feel sad or to shed tears. The compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us that we all experience sadness, so we, as fellow practitioners, should comfort one another. When a fellow practitioner faces challenges, we encourage and console them. One day, when we face our own struggles, others will encourage and console us. This is the essence of being fellow practitioners. Dear predecessors, this is a principle of being a good person. The compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us that we all experience sadness, so let us comfort one another. By mutually encouraging and consoling each other, we can face challenges together, unite in harmony, and return to God's side. Let us return to the text and continue our exploration. 10th principle: endure grievances for the greater good, with empathy and inclusivity. Dear predecessors, when conflicts arise within an organization, what should we do? We are all on the same boat, yet each person has their own ideas and perspectives. What then? The compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us that if everyone embraces a spirit of enduring grievances for the greater good and practices empathy and inclusivity, conflicts will naturally decrease, and we will avoid the chaos of pulling in different directions. On the path of practice and service, the greatest fear is when one person heads east while another heads west, leaving the organization directionless. Thus, we must be very clear, this principle applies both to our personal conduct and to the functioning of an organization. The principle of being a good person, as taught by the compassion of immortals and Buddhas, is the 10th point: endure grievances for the greater good, with empathy and inclusivity. With empathy, we include one another. If I understand your struggles, and you understand my difficulties, we mutually comprehend each other's challenges. Naturally, by enduring grievances, we can achieve collective success, earning boundless merit. Dear predecessors, this is the principle of being a good person. Thus, the compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us the 10th principle: endure grievances for the greater good, with empathy and inclusivity. Eleventh principle: we all have joy, so let us share it with one another. Dear predecessors, when you experience joy, you can share your happiness with others, allowing everyone to partake in your excitement. How wonderful that is! In the operations of an organization or in the workplace, dear predecessors, when you share your joyful mood, not everyone in society may embrace it, some may even take pleasure in your misfortune, right? But in our community, within our organization, we must cultivate a heart of sharing. When you're happy, share your joy. Someone might ask, why are you so happy? You could reply, because I had this realization: in guiding others, I managed to help someone difficult to reach, someone hard to inspire, by sharing a single phrase, story, or event that guided them to the path of truth. What joy! By sharing this happiness, dear predecessors, we inspire and infect each other with joy. This is the principle of being a good person. Since we all have joy, we can share it with one another. This is the 11th principle of being a good person: we all have joy, so let us share it with one another. 12th principle, be loyal and righteous, and serve with utmost dedication. Dear predecessors, we all know the best portrayal of Zhuge Liang from the Three Kingdoms era, serving with utmost dedication until his last breath. The fundamental principle for a person to live by is to embody loyalty and righteousness and to serve with complete devotion. In the Three Kingdoms, the epitome of loyalty and righteousness is Lord Guan, also known as Guan Gong or Guan Yu. Alongside his elder brother Liu Bei and younger brother Zhang Fei, even when separated, he upheld the spirit of loyalty and righteousness, vowing to protect his brother's wife and reunite with Liu Bei, his elder brother. This spirit of loyalty and righteousness led to Guan Yu being revered as a gentleman of the five virtues: benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and trustworthiness. Isn't this a principle of being a good person? Consider Zhuge Liang. When Liu Bei entrusted his son to him, despite the common saying that describes Liu Bei's son as a hopeless case, due to his mediocrity, Zhuge Liang, entrusted with this responsibility, served with utmost dedication until his death. This is a paragon of the principles of being a good person. When we read historical stories, why do figures like these remain celebrated through the ages? It is because we must learn from and emulate them. Thus, the compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us that the 12th principle of being a good person is to be loyal and righteous and to serve with utmost dedication. Thirteenth principle, be like a mirror, constantly reflecting on yourself. Dear predecessors, to be a good person, you must be like a mirror, always reflecting inwardly to see yourself clearly. Our eyes tend to look outward, and when we focus only externally, we remain unaware of our own flaws. Thus, the compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us that the principle of being a good person is to be like a mirror, constantly engaging in self-reflection and self-examination. At all times, we must look within and reflect inwardly. Dear predecessors, we cannot let our focus scatter outward. When your heart is outwardly focused, your spirit dissipates. We must practice self-examination and inward reflection. This is the 13th principle of being a good person. Therefore, the compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us to be like a mirror, always observing our shortcomings and correcting them immediately. Let us return to the text and continue our exploration. 14th principle, be like a candle, forever illuminating others. Dear predecessors, to be a good person is to attain enlightenment in the heavens and leave a legacy on earth. We hold this aspiration for ourselves. In learning to be like a Buddha, we must embody the Buddha's compassion, which calls us to be like a candle, burning ourselves to illuminate others. Dear predecessors, we have the opportunity to practice the Tao today because the saints, immortals, and Buddhas of past generations bore their missions. When they were human, they played the role of a candle, burning themselves to light the way for others. Today, we have taken up their torch, and we must do the same, for we, too, are bearers of this great responsibility. Thus, the 14th principle, as taught by the compassion of immortals and Buddhas, is to be like a candle, forever illuminating others. Dear predecessors, when you, as a candle, light the way for others, you are also illuminating yourself. Let us return to the text and continue our exploration. Fifteenth principle, be like a notebook, constantly recording merits and faults. Dear predecessors, to be a good person, we must be like a notebook, always recording the merits and faults of our words and actions. In the Maitreya Salvation Sutra, there is a saying, the reporting spirit child records everything clearly. Every thought, every intention, and every action we take is meticulously documented by the reporting spirit child. Heaven keeps these records, and we must remind ourselves that, as a principle of being a good person, we should also be like a notebook, constantly recording our merits and faults. We should strive to record more good deeds, filling our notebook with positive actions. Think less, desire less, and do less of what is wrong, so there will be little to record in terms of faults. Dear predecessors, this is crucial. This notebook will be presented to God when we return to heaven. We must be very clear that these records reflect our lifetime of actions, positive, proactive, and kind, with no shortcomings. Naturally, we can attain enlightenment in heaven and leave a legacy on earth. Thus, the compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us that the 15th principle of being a good person is to be like a notebook, constantly recording merits and faults. 16th principle, be like a suitcase, able to pick up and put down freely. Dear predecessors, can you carry a suitcase on your shoulder forever? Is it necessary to hold on to it throughout the entire journey? When you reach the destination, you must eventually put it down. Thus, the compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us that, as a principle of being a good person, we should be like a suitcase, able to pick up and put down freely. Holding on endlessly is meaningless, but leaving it behind entirely is also not right. We must reflect on how to balance picking up and putting down. This is the 16th principle of being a good person, be like a suitcase, able to pick up and put down freely.
Seventeenth principle, be like a clock, cherishing every moment of life. Dear predecessors, life is the fairest of all. Each person is born once and dies once. Life is a one-way path, a journey with no return. You can only move forward, never backward. Thus, the 17th principle of being a good person teaches us to be like a clock, cherishing every moment of life. We have only this one chance in life, and if we miss the opportunity to practice and serve, dear predecessors, looking back, 100 years will have passed. Today, we have this physical body and the opportunity to practice during the white sun period. We must seize this chance. Therefore, the compassion of immortals and Buddhas teaches us that the 17th and final principle of being a good person is to be like a clock, cherishing every moment of life. Time must never be wasted. Dear predecessors, remember that every second passes, and when we pause, those moments are gone, and life cannot be reclaimed. We must treasure time, for an inch of time is worth an inch of gold. Thus, the 17th principle, as taught by the compassionate immortals and Buddhas, is to be like a clock, cherishing every moment of life. Blessings to you.